Welcome back to another day of Bible study. My name is Kevin Young, and I am lead clergy here at Christ Table. If you'd like to know more about Christ Table, would encourage you to visit that URL that is always right up there in the corner of the screen, www.christstable.today. We are a ministry that is here dedicated primarily to those who are disillusioned, disconnected, done with the church, but still want to have some sort of a spiritual connection, still want to progress in spiritual maturity. And so we're here for you. But we have a lot of other people who also use us as a discipleship vehicle, even though they have other churches or other communities. Very diverse group of people that are a part of Christ Table, and you are welcome to be a part of who we are and what we do. Now, if you'd like to know more about this study in particular, journey as we are walking through the Gospel of Mark, then you can visit the URL that is right there at the bottom of the screen, go.christstable.today/journey. A couple of things there that are absolutely free resources for you. A list of all of the readings and the days where they happen through this study. You can get that there for free. And also we have a day-by-day study guide there, PDF free. You don't have to put your email in or anything at all. It's absolutely free, no strings attached, to help you walk through the process of this study, to give you some questions, to help you understand the different way in which we're doing this study. And I will say that there is a link there if you would like to help support Christ Table or would like this PDF resource that's on there for free. If you'd like a printed copy as well as all the resources that go along with it, there's information on there about that. We appreciate that. We're not trying to make a buck here. We're just trying to support all of the money that it takes in order for us to offer this to you and to get these resources in your hands as well. So if you'd like to help support us, then we would appreciate that a lot, and that is the best way in order to do that. Now, we are doing this study in a bit of a different way than I've ever done any Bible study over the years. And so if you've been with us for a while, then this is a bit out of the ordinary for us, but it is not a new thing. In fact, this way of doing Bible study is far older than the way of doing Bible study that most of us are used to, where we go in and we parse out words and try to understand the Greek texts and dissect each and every bit of it. And that's not a bad way, not a wrong way. It's actually a great way to study the Bible, but this is too. And this is Lectio Divina, which is a Latin term which means divine reading. And what happens, instead of really us reading the text, we try to create an environment where the text reads us. And so it relies a lot on the work of the Spirit, as well as it relies a lot on us to kind of turn off the logical, analytical side of our brains and just sit and contemplate the text and what's going on. And you'll be surprised if you do this, what might be revealed to you through this process. Now, there are 5 steps to it. I don't have a lot of time to go through it here, but I try to just kind of hit on them for those who are joining us for the first time. Prepare, read through the text, just take it at face value. Don't look at any commentaries or don't Google a passage in order to see what other people have said about it. Reflect on what it is speaking directly to you, what sticks out to you, what words, what phrases, what things you're surprised by, what things you question in it. Maybe read it a second or third time through it and see what stands out to you. And then what response do you feel like it's calling for in you? To think about something further, to change something. What happens whenever you stand in the shoes of the characters in the story and hear and see the journey with Jesus from different vantage points? What do you do with that? And then rest in it. So if you'd like more information about that process, you can just Google Lectio Divina, divine reading, contemplative Bible study, and it will come up, or that PDF that's over there at go.christstable.today/journey walks you through that steps with a lot more information than I've given to you here. Now, what we're doing today in Mark chapter 3 is reading through it. And what I've said on this is I'm not going to explain all of these passages. I don't have the time, frankly, to explain all of these passages. And even in not doing that, I've been going over time on Bible study. What I want to do, though, is just kind of share with you what I discover and what sticks out to me as I have read through this passage doing the contemplative reading process. And you're going to come up with different things, maybe sometimes the same things, but oftentimes different things. And I love to hear what you come up with each and every day. So wherever you watch and engage these studies, whether it's YouTube, Twitter, Facebook, Twitch, on the website, send me a direct message or post it out there for everyone to see what things in the passage stood out to you as you've done your contemplative study for the day. So this is the first one. It actually comes to the very beginning of the text in Mark chapter 3. Jesus goes into the synagogue again. So he was a regular attender at synagogue and noticed a man with a deformed hand. Since it was Sabbath, Jesus' enemies watched him closely. And I thought that this was fascinating because Jesus is doing the right thing. He is fulfilling his duties here. One thing that we see about Jesus is that Jesus tends to be pretty radical. He runs sometimes a little fast and loose with some of the religious rules, with some of the norms of the day in religion, with some of those sacred cows, that you're not supposed to do, as a kid, running the halls in church, you didn't do. It was considered to be wrong to do that. But there were some kids who were always running in the halls of the church that just played fast and loose with the rules and just didn't seem to care. Happens, I saw growing up, a lot of things that people wore to church. There was a expectation. And you always had a few of those people who just defied that expectation. And was it because they didn't know, or was it because they were just like that with the rules? Well, these people here are watching Jesus closely. The kid who's running in church is in church. He's not giving God the middle finger, right? He's not preaching the devil from the pulpit by running in the hallways, right? So he's in the right place, hearing the right things, just maybe not doing always what's expected. That person who is wearing jeans when the expectation was a suit and tie, that woman who was wearing pants whenever the expectation was a skirt past the knees or culottes, very weak, doing the right thing, but pushing the boundaries. That's Jesus. He's there. He's doing the right thing. But people are watching him closely because they're looking to see, I guess, what boundaries he's pushing against. And sometimes, in some ways and in some places with religious people, pushing against boundaries such as what you wear or how you behave is the same or worse as calling into question the existence of God. Some people prioritize weird things above the things that you would think they should. So they're there watching him closely. And it's never a good feeling whenever you're doing the right thing in the right place and you're being watched. And most of us have been in church contexts, whether it's our normal church context or you've been visiting a church. This happened to us a few weeks ago. We walked into a church, a great church, but we were out of place in what we were wearing. We went to the contemporary service and we wore contemporary clothes, and the people of the contemporary service were not wearing contemporary clothes, and we were immediately outsiders, and everybody was watching us closely. So Jesus sees this man with a deformed hand, and the people who are there watching to see what he's going to do, because Jesus has been known to heal people and do things on the Sabbath, on Holy Day, which was against the laws, against the rules. And so Jesus says to the man with a deformed hand, "Come and stand in front of everyone." And what I want to say about this is what I noticed that I've never noticed before in this text, is that Jesus is about to heal this individual, but he's not going to do it in hiding. He's going to do it right out there in front of everyone. He intentionally calls the person up to stand in front of everyone, which indicates that Jesus, first of all, doesn't care about what the uber religious people think about him, and is probably making a point. It would be like the kid in church who's running, doing it right up the middle aisle of service in the middle of the altar call, and not running to the altar, but just running crazy, right? Like, if you're going to do it, you're just going to do it right there in front of everyone. The person who wears the things to church that are taboo, what if that person is the pastor? What if that person is the music director? What if that person is singing the solo for that day and intentionally does that in order to prove a point or to make a statement? It's like not only are they doing the wrong thing, but they are driving it home in a way that they know that you're doing it in order to frustrate them. Why other reason would you do that? Oftentimes, conformity in religious situations is an expectation. And whenever we stand out, whenever we do things that are revolutionary or that are against the grain, even if we're doing them on behalf of God, there can be a feeling that it is wrong to do the right thing in the wrong way. And I think that that's true. But what is the wrong way? It seems as though Jesus is intentionally here, and this is kind of the word that came to mind, is living loudly. There can be a lot of pressure in religious circles to live quietly, especially if you're living against the grain or saying things that other religious people don't like. Jesus didn't do that. And, maybe this resonates with me because, quite frankly, I tend to be a revolutionary. I'm a rule follower, but once I know the rules, I'm going to find a way to bend and break those rules just to live outside the boundaries just a bit. I'm the guy who's just stepping one toe out of the circle just to see what happens and to make a point. I'm the guy who knows where the boundaries are and loves them, but also loves to just run outside of them. Just that guy. It's who I am. Sometimes I think, though, and again, maybe this is just me, I think that in religion, the people who are revolutionaries, the people who are prophets, the people who are continuing to advance the church into new seasons, new areas, are the ones who are living loudly and living in that way. The church, humanity in general, just doesn't tend to like change or like discomfort. But growth only comes through discomfort. I've got 4 kids who are growing up in that adolescent stage, and I tell you, growing pains, growth only comes through discomfort. So a little bit later in the text, Jesus has now healed this individual, and obviously there are people who are frustrated with Jesus for doing that. And Jesus looks around at them angrily at their response to this man's miracle and was deeply saddened by their hard hearts. And this caught me by surprise. I'm going to dig into a little bit of what I know about having already read through the book of Mark. It is that this phrase, hard hearts, or their hearts were hardened, we're going to continue to see this phrase come up over and over and again in the book of Mark. This is one of those phrases that is repeated throughout, so much so that it's kind of a linchpin in the book of Mark. And to my knowledge, this is the first time that I've seen it yet in the book of Mark, but you're going to see it over and again as you work through the book of Mark. And I think that it's fascinating here that Jesus isn't saddened by other things, but it's specifically pointed out that he is saddened by their hard hearts. It's not their religious rules. It's not their difficulty on understanding who Jesus is and what Jesus is there to do. In fact, we're going to see in just a moment that Jesus kind of intentionally hides who he is and what he's trying to do at this point in his ministry. He isn't saddened by the fact that they question him. He isn't saddened by the difficulty that they have in understanding what he's trying to do or the place in which he did it. None of those things. What Jesus is really saddened by, it looks like, is their inability to empathize with the fact that somehow or other in the 18 inches between their head and their heart, there has been a disconnection between those two things, and their hearts have become hardened. Of all the people on the planet whose hearts should be soft to other people, shouldn't it be people who name the name of God, right? Shouldn't it be religious people who, of all people on the planet, have soft hearts or gracious hearts? Sure, we have questions. Sure, we have boundaries that we say should not be crossed. Those boundaries may or may not be personal or God, and sometimes we get those things mixed up, right? I think that my boundaries are God's boundaries, and I think that God's boundaries are my boundaries. We all have those things, sure. But the inability to look at somebody who has a deformed hand and to not be able to understand the joy of this moment and the good in it, to Jesus makes him angry. It makes him deeply saddened. And it made me reflect on those moments. I wonder when I've had, or when I do have, even now, even today, a hard heart, and I'm not able to see it. Where I'm paying attention to other things, to other people, to those who I think are far from God, but whom God is using, like Jesus. I wonder how we recognize our hard heart, how we get it fixed, how we see it. Are we doomed to never be able to see it or to fix it? Are we just people who walk around like stone? This is one of the things that, again, in my contemplative reading, I'm thinking to myself, I want to pay attention to through the book of Mark. Because if Mark continues to focus on this idea of a hard heart or a hardened heart, then I have to hope or believe that at some point or other, Mark is going to give us the antidote to this disease. And I think that we could probably call it a disease here. So there's a lot of other things that happen in this text, and there's one more, and I'm not going to get to all of the text, but these are the things, that in the beginning were kind of standing out to me. And Jesus, and I think that we may have even run across this already in Mark, though I didn't point it out. We'll certainly run across it again, and it's in the other Gospels as well, where Jesus tells others, but oftentimes Jesus tells specifically spirits, evil spirits, demons, during encounters, not to reveal who he is. Sometimes the language that is given there is people aren't ready to hear, or he's not ready for people to know. Occasionally there are questions in my mind as to what it is that he doesn't want people to know about himself. And in some of the places in the Gospels, it actually specifically spells out what it was about him or his ministry that he did not want people to know. But this stood out to me. And again, I'm not trying to go into the Greek or all of the theological nuances of this. This isn't the point of doing a contemplative reading. The point of doing it is to see the things that stand out and listen and feel what the Spirit of God points out to us as being important. And then we get to reflect and see why those things resonate with us. And we may know immediately, and we may not know. It may be something that we have to chew on for a while. But for me, this idea of Jesus encouraging somebody to not reveal who he was seems a little counter to what I've always thought and taught about Jesus, that the whole goal was for people to know Jesus, that the whole point was for people to see Jesus, to come into a relationship with him. Friendship, salvation, redemption, justification, all of these words that imply a change in me or a change in the person because of connection, proximity to Jesus, and the indwelling of God, the Spirit, in me. Evangelism. I grew up independent, fundamental, Bible-believing Baptist, and evangelism was the big thing. Soul winning was the way that we described it. 2 words, got that little hyphen there, conjunction together, soul winning, knocking on doors. I can remember on Thursday nights, sometimes Wednesday nights, who, thank God, they kind of stopped doing that before I was old enough to have to do it. This introvert probably would have, it would not have been a good scene. But I can remember my parents and other people doing it and talking about it and it being the thing to do, to go soul winning, knocking on doors, telling people about Jesus. And don't hear me making fun. It's just, I think there are better ways to do it, especially there are better ways to do it now. Back in the day when people open their doors and you have conversations with people and talk about things and people were more open, I'm sure it worked better. But this idea of not revealing who Jesus is seems counter to everything that we've been told to do, and counter to, you would think, that everything that Jesus would want. Now, again, I know that there are theological reasons for this moment, and maybe those theological reasons aren't still appropriate 2,000 years later. Maybe this is a very limited time thing. Those aren't the questions that are in view here for me. But the question that was in view for me here whenever I read this was, I wonder if there are still moments whenever it's better to not reveal who Jesus is in moments that I'm involved in. And I thought about that, and I contemplated that. I kind of argued with myself, and it's okay to argue with yourself, but I argued with myself about, are there moments where it would be appropriate or necessary or good or better to not reveal who Jesus is, and other moments where it's okay or it's needful or appropriate to do that? I'm not sure of the answer to that, but one of the things that did come to mind that's still kind of been sitting with me about this text is, whenever I'm doing things on behalf of God and Jesus, whenever I feel compelled to engage somebody who I might not normally engage in conversation and love, in generosity, whenever I give to someone of my time or my resources or my money, whenever I pass somebody and become the Good Samaritan, doing something that I wouldn't normally do, that may be well beyond expectations because of the Spirit of Christ within me that I want to let shine and let change lives. I wondered if there were moments where it might not be better to just build a friendship or a relationship or do the right thing without having to always say, this is because of Jesus, or would you like to hear about Jesus, or have you ever thought about church? I'm not sure the answer to that, frankly. I don't know if there is a right answer to that. Maybe there are moments where it is better to just live your faith and wait and allow a better moment or a better opportunity to express the foundations behind why you do what you do and how you live what you live. But I think that it is compelling to me because I remember growing up, those people who never shut up about Jesus. Everything that they did was because of Jesus. Every other word that came out of their mouth was Jesus. And in some ways, I kind of looked at that and longed for that, because I was kind of the exact opposite of that. And so I wanted to be bolder like they were in that. But also, those people tended to be really, really annoying. And didn't really want to be around them because that was all that they ever talked about. And I could see, as I got older, people who were not people of faith or followers of Jesus interacting with those people who were kind of over the top. And it wasn't always necessarily a great thing. So again, not here to try to understand right or wrong as we walk through these passages, but try to hear what Jesus speaks to us, what the Spirit speaks to you in this, and then wrestle with those thoughts as we contemplate this journey of Jesus and what it means to us and the world around us. Divine reading. Well, if you'd like more information again on this process of contemplative reading of the text, feel free to go and download that study guide there at go.christstable.today/journey. And again, I am well over time. And so thanks for sticking with us. If you've stuck for this long, look forward to seeing you tomorrow as we continue the study. But until then, happy